My name is Rosa Weathers. I'm 28 years old. 6 hours after an emergency cesarean, my father stormed into my recovery room with a lawyer and declared coldly, "You're too broken and mentally unstable to be a mother. A damaged woman like you has no right to raise this child. We're taking our grandson home before you destroy him too." I lay there stitched up, still bleeding, legs heavy and useless from the fading spinal block, completely alone. My husband was 3 floors down performing emergency heart surgery, unreachable. My mother stood silently behind him with a pre-packed diaper bag. They had months of fabricated psychiatric reports and custody papers ready. They thought I was at my weakest. They thought they had already won. They had no idea this was my hospital. One single keystroke by the head nurse, and 90 seconds later, everything they planned began to violently unravel. If you've ever been called broken, unstable, or not good enough by the people who were supposed to love you the most, especially at your most vulnerable moment, I want you to comment the word enough right now. Let me know I'm not alone. Now, let me take you back to the moment I surfaced from the morphine haze and realized exactly what my own parents were trying to do to me. The clock on the wall read 4:04 p.m. Owen had been born at 10:04 that morning. 6 hours. 6 hours since they'd cut him out of me, since I'd held him for 30 seconds before the nurses whisked him to the level 2 nursery. "Just monitoring," they'd said. "Standard for C-sections." I tried to remember those 30 seconds. His weight. His cry. The way his tiny fist had curled around my finger before they took him away. The morphine made everything soft around the edges. My hospital bracelet pressed against my wrist, white plastic with my name printed in black. Weathers Brennan Rosa. Below it, a matching number that corresponded to Owen's tiny band. Connected, even when separated. "Where's Owen?" My voice came out hoarse. "Is he okay?" The nurse checking my vitals, young, kind eyes, smiled. "He's perfect, honey. Nursery right across the hall. You'll see him soon. Rest now." But I couldn't rest. Something felt wrong. Not medically wrong, something else. Julian. Where was Julian? I checked the clock again. 4:06 p.m. He'd gone into OR3 at 11:15 that morning. Emergency bypass surgery. 5 hours, they'd projected. He could be done any minute, or the surgery could run long. They always did. The visitor chair sat empty. Teal vinyl, scratched and sun-faded. That's where he should be. That's where he would be, if he could. My phone was in a locker downstairs. The nurse call button rested under my right hand, red and warm from my palm. Should I press it? For what? To say I felt uneasy? That something in my chest was tightening and it wasn't the staples? The morphine PCA pump beeped its steady rhythm. Patient-controlled analgesia. I could press the button for more, but I'd maxed out for the hour. The green light blinked, indifferent. I tried to wiggle my toes. They responded, barely. The spinal block was wearing off, leaving behind that pins and needles sensation that meant feeling was returning. My legs felt like dead weight, impossible to lift. I couldn't stand even if I tried. Medical protocol: 12 hours minimum before attempting to walk after a cesarean. 18 staples held my abdomen together. I could feel them pulling when I breathed too deep. Blood pressure cuff inflated automatically. 95/62. Low, but stable. I was still bleeding. That was normal, they'd said. Would continue for weeks. The catheter bag hung beside the bed, a quarter full of amber liquid. The IV line in my right hand tugged when I moved. I was tethered, trapped. Vulnerable in a way I'd never been in my 28 years. The incision across my lower abdomen burned with every shallow breath, 18 metal staples pulling tight like barbed wire under my skin. The catheter tube tugged uncomfortably whenever I shifted, a constant, humiliating reminder that my body was still recovering from major surgery. Lochia, the postpartum bleeding, soaked the thick pad between my legs, and the nurse had warned it would continue for weeks. I remembered the 30 seconds I held Owen, his warm, wrinkled skin against my chest, the tiny cry that sounded like the most beautiful sound in the world. Now that memory felt stolen. My arms ached to hold him again, but I could barely lift them above the blanket. I was a social worker who spent every day fighting for vulnerable children, yet in this moment I couldn't even fight for my own son. And that's when I heard them. 3 sets of footsteps in the hallway. My heart knew before my brain caught up. The monitor beside me spiked. 72 to 89 in seconds. I knew that gait. Measured. Deliberate. The walk of a man who'd never met a room he didn't own. My father. The door handle turned. Chrome, catching the afternoon light. The Venetian blinds were half closed, March sun striping the linoleum floor in bands of gray and gold. The empty chair seemed to mock me. Julian should be there. Julian should be. The door opened. Theodore Weathers entered first. The last time we'd spoken face to face was at my wedding. He and Mom had refused to come, claiming we don't approve of the match. When I announced the pregnancy, they sent nothing but that single cold email. Now here they were, 3 years of silence exploding into this moment. Mom hovered behind him, eyes fixed on the floor, knuckles white around the Burberry diaper bag she must have bought months ago. The lawyer looked expensive and uncomfortable, like he already sensed something was off. He didn't smile, didn't ask how I was feeling, didn't look at me like I was his daughter who'd just given birth to his first grandchild. He looked at me like I was a case file. "Rosa," he said, "we need to talk." My father has always been good at control. It's his gift, if you can call it that. The ability to walk into any space and make it his. Courtroom, boardroom, hospital room. He pulled the visitor chair close. Too close. Inside what therapists call personal space, what I call the zone where you can't breathe properly. He sat, folded his hands, the same gesture I'd seen 1,000 times growing up. The gesture that meant, I've already decided. This conversation is a formality. Behind him, my mother hovered near the door. White leather purse clutched in both hands, knuckles bone pale. She wouldn't look at me. The third person, a man in his 50s, gray suit, leather briefcase with brass clasps, positioned himself by the window. "This is Richard Pemberton," my father said. "He's a family law specialist. We've retained him regarding a sensitive matter concerning your child." Pemberton nodded, didn't smile, set his briefcase on the windowsill and opened it. The sound of brass clasps clicking open felt very loud in the small room. My mother still wouldn't look at me, just stood there, purse in her death grip, staring at the floor tiles. "Mr. Weathers," I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "What is this?" My father's expression didn't change. He reached for the manila folder Pemberton was extracting from the briefcase. "Rosa, sweetheart," my mother whispered. First words, voice trembling. "Please just listen. This is for the best. For everyone." The folder landed on my bedside table with a soft thump. Heavy, expensive paper. It pushed aside my water cup, which teetered but didn't fall. My father slid it closer to me. "Rosa," he said, "we're filing for emergency custody of your son. Today." The words didn't land right. They bounced off my morphine-dulled brain like stones off water. Custody. Emergency. Today. I started. "The paperwork has been filed with King County Superior Court as of 1:35 this afternoon." His voice was clinical, rehearsed. Every word had weight behind it. "We are the petitioners. You are the respondent. Given the circumstances of your current condition and your documented history, we believe immediate intervention is necessary to protect the minor child. I stared at him, at the folder, at my mother, who still wouldn't meet my eyes. What history? I managed. Pemberton cleared his throat. Ms. Weathers Brennan, if you'd like to review the petition. Her name, my father interrupted, is Rosa Weathers. That's how the petition is filed. Not Weathers Brennan. Just Weathers. Like Julian didn't exist. Like the past 3 years of my life had been erased with a pen stroke. My hands shook as I picked up the folder. The brass fasteners were sharp against my fingers. The cover page stared up at me in official typeface. Petition for emergency custody. King County Superior Court case number. Assigned petitioners: Theodore Weathers, Catherine Weathers. Respondent: Rosa Weathers Brennan, 52 pages. My name was misspelled on page 3. Weathers Brennan, sloppy. I flipped to page 4. November 12th. I had been at work that day supervising a foster placement hearing until 4 p.m. I had the time card, emails, and witness statements to prove it. Yet here was an 8-page report claiming I had sat in an office I had never visited, crying about being unready for motherhood and showing flat affect and poor insight. The diagnosis codes, major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder, were written as if they were facts. Medication recommendations I had never taken, session notes describing conversations that had never happened. As a social worker who reviewed psych evals every single week, I knew exactly how convincing this document looked on paper. Someone had spent months building a case that could destroy my life with a single keystroke. Section 3, Documentation of Respondent's Mental Instability. Subsection A, Psychiatric Evaluation conducted by Dr. Helen Morrison, Ph.D., Licensed Clinical Psychologist, November 12th, 2025. I stopped breathing. November 12th. I'd been at work that day. I'd supervised a foster placement hearing at 2 p.m. I had the time card to prove it. I'd never seen anyone named Dr. Helen Morrison in my life. The evaluation was 8 pages long. Professional letterhead. Belltown Psychiatric Associates, 2127 First Avenue, Suite 304. Seattle, Washington 98121. I read the first paragraph. Patient Rosa Weathers Brennan presented for initial evaluation on November 12, 2025, reporting significant anxiety regarding her pregnancy and expressing ambivalence about her readiness for parenthood. Patient appeared disheveled, affect was flat, and she demonstrated poor insight into her emotional state. I had never been to Belltown for therapy, had never set foot in an office at that address. The diagnosis codes jumped out at me. F3 2.1, Major Depressive Disorder, Moderate. F4 1.1, Generalized Anxiety Disorder. Medication recommendations: sertraline 100 mg daily, lorazepam 0.5 mg as needed for acute anxiety episodes. I'd never taken either medication. The session notes were detailed, specific. They described conversations I'd never had. Patient stated, "I'm not ready for this. I don't know if I can do this." When asked about support systems, patient became defensive and withdrawn. My hands were shaking so badly the pages rustled. "This is fake," I said. My voice sounded very far away. "I've never seen this person. I've never been to this address." My father's expression didn't change. "The clinical records are quite clear, Rosa. Dr. Morrison documented your sessions over a 12-week period. Your denial is consistent with the symptom profile she identified." Gaslighting. The word rose up from my social work training. Make the victim question their own reality. Make them doubt what they know to be true. I flipped forward. November 26th, December 10th. 3 sessions documented in detail. I'd been at work all 3 days. I could prove it. The affidavit doesn't specify the location of the sessions, Pemberton added, reading from his notes. But Dr. Morrison's credentials are. I don't care about her credentials, I said. I was never there. I kept reading. My stomach turned over. Section 4. Corroborating witness testimony. 6 affidavits. 6 names I didn't recognize. Jennifer Paulson. I witnessed Rosa crying in a coffee shop in December 2025, saying she wasn't ready to be a mother and didn't know if she could go through with it. Mark DeLuca. Rosa told me she'd made a mistake and was having serious doubts about her pregnancy. Susan Crawford, Brian Westfield, Dorothy Hannigan, Kevin Shields, all claiming similar observations. Dates scattered across October through December. Coffee shops, grocery stores, public parks. All vague, all unverifiable, all notarized, all apparently legitimate. I don't know these people, I said. Any of them. Who is Jennifer Paulson? Ms. Paulson is listed as a concerned community member who encountered you at a cafe on December 18th, Pemberton said. Uncomfortable now, glancing at my father. What cafe? Where? The affidavit doesn't specify. Of course it didn't. I flipped to page 15. My breath caught. Catherine Weathers. Supporting statement. 2 pages. My mother's signature at the bottom. Dated March 1st, 2026. 15 days ago. Notarized at Gold Seal Notary Services, the same building as my father's law office. I looked up at her. She was crying now, silent tears tracking down her face. Mom, I said. You signed this? She didn't answer, just stood there crying, holding that white purse like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I read her statement. I have witnessed my daughter's declining mental health over the past year. She has become increasingly withdrawn, refuses family support, and expresses inappropriate anger toward her father and myself. She has made concerning statements about feeling overwhelmed by impending motherhood. I fear for my grandchild's safety in her care. You haven't seen me in 3 years, I said. My voice was very quiet now, very controlled. You didn't come to my wedding. You didn't respond when I told you I was pregnant. And you signed a legal document saying you've witnessed my mental health decline? Rosa, please. Her voice broke. Please what? I looked at my father. You did this. You made her sign this. He didn't deny it, just looked at me with those cold, assessing eyes. Your father said it was the only way to help you, my mother whispered. Help me? The laugh that came out of me didn't sound like mine. By taking my child? I looked back at the petition. Page 16. Final paragraph. Given respondents' current compromised physical and mental state, post-surgical, medicated, and without adequate support system, petitioners request immediate temporary custody pending full evidentiary hearing. Emergency removal is warranted to protect the minor child from foreseeable harm. The clock read 4:11 p.m. Julian was still in surgery. I was alone. And my parents had just told me they were taking my son. My father has been planning this for 7 months. I know that now. I can trace it back. The email he sent in August when I told them I was pregnant. The one that said, "We need to discuss what's best for this child." Not congratulations, not joy. Just that cold, calculated statement of intent. I'd thought it was concern. Misguided, controlling, typical Ted Weathers concern. I'd deleted the email, blocked his work address. Thought that was the end of it. But he'd been working, building, fabricating a case against me. 4 months, November through February. Fake therapy sessions, fake witnesses, fake evidence of instability that didn't exist. How do you fight that? How do you prove a negative? I tried to sit up straighter. The staples pulled. Pain lanced through my abdomen. The morphine took the edge off but couldn't touch the deeper ache. You hired someone to create fake medical records, I said. That's fraud. The documentation is legitimate, my father said. His voice never wavered, never rose. Absolute certainty. Dr. Morrison is a licensed professional who... Is she? I met his eyes. Because I'm going to find out. And when I do, when I prove this is all fabricated, you're going to face charges. Real ones. For the first time, something flickered across his face. Not worry. Just recalculation. Rosa, he said, leaning forward slightly. Look at yourself. You're post-operative, medicated, alone. Your husband is unavailable. You have no support system here. The court will see that you're a man who fabricated psychiatric records to steal his daughter's child. We're not stealing anything. His tone shifted. Harder now. We're protecting our grandson from a mother who isn't capable of caring for him. You made choices, Rosa. You married someone beneath you. You isolated yourself from your family. You've demonstrated poor judgment repeatedly, and now, Julian is Division Chief of Interventional Cardiology at this hospital. The words came out before I thought about them. My father blinked, first genuine expression of surprise I'd seen from him. He's what? My husband, the man you've never bothered asking about, the man whose last name you can barely say without contempt. He's Division Chief of Interventional Cardiology, at this hospital, where I work, where I've worked for 6 years as a social worker. Pemberton looked up sharply. My father's jaw tightened. That's irrelevant too. Is it? I looked at Pemberton. You didn't know that, did you? He didn't tell you where my husband works, what his position is. Did he? Pemberton's silence was answer enough. We're done here, my father said, standing abruptly. Rosa, we'll be back with the appropriate authorities. In the meantime, I said, you're going to leave my room. We're going to get our grandson. He moved toward the door, toward the hallway, toward the nursery. My mother followed him. She'd pulled a pre-packed diaper bag from somewhere. Burberry pattern. Expensive. Ready. They'd planned this down to the last detail. Pemberton gathered his papers. Mr. Weathers, I must advise this isn't proper protocol. The paperwork is filed, my father said. I have legal standing. He was at the door now. I tried to stand. Couldn't. My legs wouldn't hold me. The spinal block was fading, but I was still too weak, too compromised. I pressed the morphine button. Desperate, futile. It wouldn't help. It couldn't help. My father opened the door, and Elena Rodriguez, head nurse of the recovery unit, was standing right there. Elena is 52 years old. She's worked at UW Medical for 28 years. She started the same year my mother did, back in 1998, when they were both ER nurses. She was there when my mother quit in 2001, when my father showed up at the hospital and made a scene, and my mother turned in her resignation that same day. Elena remembered. Mr. Weathers, she said. Her voice was professional, neutral, but there was something underneath it, something steel. My father barely glanced at her. Excuse me. I need to check Ms. Weathers-Brennan's vitals. Elena moved past him into the room, positioning herself between him and the hallway, between him and the nursery. She went to my bedside, wrapped the blood pressure cuff around my arm. Her movements were calm, practiced, but her eyes were sharp, assessing. The cuff inflated. 98/64. Elevated. Stress. Heart rate's up. Elena said quietly, adjusting my morphine drip, checking the catheter output. Her hand hovered over the computer terminal just outside my door. My father was moving toward the hallway again. My mind raced in panic. If they reached the nursery now while Julian was still in surgery, they could flash the custody papers and walk out with Owen before anyone could stop them. I pictured the security guard at the nursery door stepping aside, the nurses handing over my son because the paperwork looked official. The thought made bile rise in my throat. I could hear their footsteps fading down the corridor toward the level 2 nursery, each step sounding like a hammer on my chest. Elena typed one line. I caught a glimpse of the screen. Just for a second. Security to recovery 412. Family interference. Priority 1 timestamp. 4:10:17 p.m. She didn't say anything. Didn't look at my father. Just typed, logged the request, and stepped back into my room. I'll need everyone to stay in the room for a moment, she said. Still professional. Still calm. My father ignored her. Kept walking toward the nursery. My mother followed, diaper bag in hand. Pemberton stood frozen, briefcase half closed. 15 seconds. 35 seconds. I counted them. Couldn't help it. 58 seconds. The elevator at the end of the hall dinged. 73 seconds. Heavy footsteps. Radio static. 89 seconds. 2 security officers rounded the corner. The lead officer entered my room. Kevin Marshall. 40. 15 years at UW Medical. Former Army MP. He saw me first. Rosa? His tone shifted immediately. Concern. What's going on? He knew my name. Used my first name. My father stopped mid-step. Kevin Marshall picked up the custody petition from my bedside table. The pages my father had left there, so sure of his position. He read the cover page, flipped to page 2, stopped at the respondent's spouse line. I watched his face change. Wait, he said. Dr. Brennan? Division Chief Brennan? The second security officer, Monica Torres, 8 years at UW, former Seattle PD, stepped forward from the doorway. Rosa, you're married to Chief Brennan from Interventional? I nodded. My voice came out hoarse. He's in surgery. OR3. Elena stepped forward from where she'd been standing. Quiet, observant, strategic. Mr. Weathers, she said, did you know your son-in-law is Division Chief of Interventional Cardiology at this hospital? My father's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, realization, something that might have been dread. Pemberton spoke up, his voice strangled. I wasn't provided that information in client intake. My mother's hand went to her mouth. The diaper bag dropped to the floor. Kevin was already radioing. This is Security 12, Priority 1 in Recovery 412. I need to reach Dr. Brennan's team immediately. Notify OR3 for emergency page. Static crackled. Other nurses appeared in the doorway. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, my supervisor from social work walking past, stopped. Rosa, what? Elena turned to her. Voice low but clear. Call David Sterling, now. The radio crackled back. Security 12, Dr. Brennan is being paged stat. Attending taking over surgery. ETA 8 minutes. My father sat down heavily in the visitor chair. For the first time since he'd walked into my room, he was silent. Julian got the page at 4:12 p.m., 3 hours into a 5-hour coronary artery bypass procedure. Code, Family Emergency, Recovery 412. Your wife, Stat Dr. Patricia Vance, the attending surgeon with 30 years' experience, took over without hesitation. Go. I've got this. Julian scrubbed out in 2 minutes, ran through the hallways. OR wing to recovery wing. 4 minutes. Waited 45 seconds for the elevator. I can picture him. Still in surgical scrubs. Mask pulled down around his neck. Hands pink from the antiseptic scrub. 4th floor to room 412. 1 minute. 7 minutes and 52 seconds from page to arrival. The door opened at 4:19:52 p.m. He was still in navy surgical scrubs, scrub cap still on, shoe covers, stethoscope around his neck, reading glasses tucked in his scrub pocket. 6'1", lean, salt and pepper hair at the temples. 33 years old, but the job aged him. His eyes scanned the room. Me, security officers, elderly couple, man in a suit. He came to me first, ignored everyone else. His hand touched my face. Gentle, checking for fever. Doctor reflex. His other hand found my pulse at my wrist. Hey. His voice was soft. Just for me. Are you okay? What happened? The tears came then. Finally. After hours of holding everything inside, I broke. They're trying to take Owen. His jaw tightened. That small muscle that works when he's controlling fury. I'd been counting the seconds, watching the clock, praying. Julian entered. He was still in Navy surgical scrubs. Scrub cap still on. Shoe covers. Stethoscope around his neck. Reading glasses tucked in his scrub pocket. 6'1". Lean. Salt and pepper hair at the temples. 33 years old, but the job aged him. His eyes scanned the room. Me. Security officers. Elderly couple. Man in a suit. He came to me first. Ignored everyone else. His hand touched my face. Gentle. Checking for fever. Doctor reflex. His other hand found my pulse at my wrist. Hey. His voice was soft. Just for me. Are you okay? What happened? The tears came then. Finally. They're trying to take Owen. His jaw tightened. That small muscle that works when he's controlling fury. He turned to face the room. Kevin handed him the custody petition. Julian read. 45 seconds of complete silence. His face stayed neutral. Controlled. But I knew him. I could see it. The small muscle in his jaw working. The way his breathing changed. The subtle tension in his shoulders. He finished reading. Looked up at my father. Mr. Weathers. His voice was calm, quiet. Absolutely authoritative. I need you to leave my wife's room. Now. My father tried to stand. To speak. Dr. Brennan, if you'd review the documentation. Julian cut him off. Didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Kevin, please escort Mr. and Mrs. Weathers and their attorney from the building. I'll be filing a restraining order within the hour. They are not to return to this floor. He turned back to me. Dismissed my father completely. Put his hand on my face again. I'm here now. It's okay. My father tried to argue. Pemberton tried to intercede. Julian didn't even look at them. Kevin, he said again. And that was all it took. The escort began at 4:22 p.m. On the 4th floor, 12 staff members watched. Nurses, residents, case managers, people I'd worked with for 6 years. Whispers spread like wildfire. That's Rosa's parents. They tried to take the baby. Some faces showed shock, others quiet anger. Many had known my mother from her ER days. I lay in bed listening to the fading footsteps and radio chatter echoing down the hall. A strange mix of humiliation and relief washed over me. My parents, the people who once controlled every part of my life, were being walked out of the hospital like common trespassers, in full view of everyone who mattered. Recovery Room 412, Cascade Wing Hallway, Central Elevator Bank, Main Lobby, Exit Doors, approximately 800 feet, 12 minutes, deliberately slow, deliberately visible. On the 4th floor, 12 staff members watched. Nurses, residents, case managers, people I'd worked with for 6 years. The elevator stopped at the 3rd floor. 4 residents entered, saw the escort, went quiet. The lobby, 4:34 p.m. shift change, peak traffic. I learned later there were 127 people present. Security cameras logged them. 3 of my social work colleagues, 2 case managers, 1 patient advocate. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo stopped mid-conversation with a family. Watched. Elena walked alongside the escort, visible, deliberate, a message to the staff. My father kept his shoulders back, tried to maintain dignity, failed. My mother cried, silent, shoulders shaking, hand over her mouth. As they approached the exit, Pemberton spoke. "Officer, I want it noted that I'm withdrawing from this case. I was not informed of material facts. I'll be filing formal notice with the court today." My father whipped around. "Richard, I don't represent clients who misrepresent circumstances, Ted." Pemberton's voice was cold. "We're done." He turned, walked back into the hospital, going to find my room, to offer testimony. The automatic doors opened. 4:36 p.m., 32 minutes from arrival to exit. As the doors closed, my mother turned back. One last look, made eye contact with Elena through the glass. Elena's expression wasn't triumphant, wasn't angry, just disappointed, sad. Catherine had been her colleague once, 25 years ago. She'd chosen wrong then, kept choosing wrong. Elena shook her head slightly, turned away. My mother crumpled against my father. He didn't comfort her. The doors closed. David Sterling arrived at my room at 5:15 p.m. Hospital legal advocate. 42 years old, 12 years in healthcare law. Julian was still there, sitting in the visitor chair, holding my hand. Sterling reviewed the custody petition. 20 minutes of silence. Reading. Making notes. Finally, he looked up. Dr. Morrison's psychology license was revoked by Washington State in 2023. Ethics violations, boundary violations with patients, fraudulent billing. I felt something release in my chest. Belltown Psychiatric Associates doesn't exist. The address listed, 2127 First Avenue, Suite 304, is a UPS store. Pemberton had arrived 15 minutes earlier. He handed Sterling a stack of documents. 4 of the 6 witness names don't exist in any public records I can access, Pemberton said. The 2 that do exist live in different states and have no connection to Seattle. I've already contacted them. They've never met Ms. Weathers-Brennan. Sterling nodded. Mr. Weathers hired a discredited practitioner to fabricate evidence. This isn't just custody overreach. This is fraud, potentially criminal. Can we file a restraining order tonight? Julian's voice was steady, but his hand was tight around mine. Already drafted. Sterling pulled out papers. Emergency temporary restraining order. I have an on-call judge standing by for phone review. We'll have it approved within 2 hours. He was right. The TRO was filed at 5:30 p.m. Judge Patricia Vance, different from the surgeon, no conflict, reviewed via phone at 6:45 p.m., approved at 7:15 p.m. 500 feet, restriction from me, Julian, and Owen. No contact, 2 years duration, renewable. Full hearing scheduled in 14 days. But that wasn't all. Sterling pulled up his laptop. Hospital IT security report. I requested an audit of system access attempts. He said. Theodore Weathers attempted to access your employee file on January 15th. Denied. He tried searching employee records for Brennan on January 18th. Denied. He attempted to access your medical records on January 22nd, February 3rd, February 14th, and February 28th. All denied. All logged. 6 unauthorized access attempts, HIPAA violations, federal crime. He was cyberstalking you, Sterling said. For 2 months. Security flagged the pattern and elevated monitoring. That's how we have the complete audit trail. Julian's hand tightened further. There's more, Sterling said. He hesitated. I was researching your father's background for the TRO. I found something. He turned the laptop toward us. Court records. 1985. King County Superior Court. Gloria Weathers. Petitioner versus Amanda Weathers. Respondent. Emergency custody petition. Your father's mother filed for custody of your father's sister in 1985, Sterling said. Amanda Weathers. She was 26. Single mother. Gloria claimed she was unfit. Unstable. The court granted temporary custody. Gloria had the baby for 8 months before the decision was reversed. I stared at the screen. Ted was 17 when this happened, Sterling continued. He witnessed it, watched his mother take his sister's child, watched the family fracture. Amanda cut all contact, moved to Portland, never spoke to the family again. He learned it from her, I whispered. The words hit me like a second wave of morphine, heavy and disorienting. For the first time, I saw the full circle. My grandmother Gloria, doing to Aunt Amanda exactly what my father was trying to do to me. 41 years of the same toxic belief that control equals love. I looked at Julian and felt a fierce determination settle in my chest. Owen would never grow up in that cycle. I would break it here, today, with steel rails and security escorts and restraining orders if that's what it took. Julian's hand found the back of my neck. Grounding. It's a pattern, Sterling said gently. Generational trauma. He thinks this is rescue. This is love. Elena spoke from the doorway. I hadn't heard her come in. Catherine worked here in 1998, she said. ER nurse. She was good. Really good. She was going to be charge nurse. She paused. Your father showed up one day in 2001. Made a scene. Told her she belonged at home. She turned in her resignation that afternoon. I remember. She was crying. She gave up everything for him, I said. And now she's lost everything because of him, Elena said. Both of you. The room was quiet for a long moment. Julian broke the silence. The prosecutor's office will want to review this. The fabricated records. The HIPAA violations. I'll send the full file tomorrow, Sterling said. But Rosa, for tonight. They're gone. They're legally required to stay gone. And they will face consequences. I looked at Owen's empty isolette across the hall. Can I see my son now? I asked. Elena smiled. I'll bring him in. 3 days later, I was home. Owen in my arms. Julian driving us carefully through Seattle rain. My phone buzzed at 2:47 a.m. that first night home. Catherine. I'm sorry. I should have stopped him years ago. I stared at the message for a long time. Owen asleep in the bassinet beside my bed. Julian's breathing steady next to me. I didn't respond. 2 weeks later, Sterling called. Catherine Weathers filed for legal separation from Theodore Weathers this morning. 6 weeks later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. 4 pages. Postmarked Tacoma. I recognized my mother's handwriting. Julian found me in the nursery, reading it. Owen on my shoulder. What does it say? He asked. I folded it carefully. That she's in therapy, twice a week. That she's staying with her sister. That she knows the custody plan was wrong. That she's choosing differently now. Does she want to see Owen? No. She says she doesn't deserve to. Not yet. Maybe not ever. What do you want? I looked at Owen, at my son, at the life we were building. I don't know, I said. Ask me in a few years. 8 weeks later, I returned to UW Medical. Not to work. Not yet. Just to visit. I brought Owen, 8 weeks old, finally filling out, starting to smile. The cafeteria was warm, familiar, smelled like bad coffee and hand sanitizer and home. Sarah Okonkwo saw me first. Rosa. She brought the whole team, case managers, social workers, patient advocates, people I'd worked alongside for 6 years. They passed Owen around gently, cooed, made the appropriate baby noises. Elena brought me coffee. Light cream. No sugar. She remembered. She sat down across from me. How are you holding up? She asked. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Some days are hard, I said. But I'm building something different. Something mine. Elena nodded, smiled. That's what breaking cycles looks like. I looked down at Owen, asleep now in Elena's arms. Safe, protected, wanted. I thought about my father, about the custody petition gathering dust in some legal file, about the restraining order still in effect. I thought about my mother, about her letter, about the possibility of forgiveness, years from now, with boundaries and therapy and time. I thought about Gloria Weathers in 1985, about Amanda, about the pattern that had run through my family for 41 years, the pattern that ended here, not because they were defeated, though they were, but because I chose who gets access to my life, to my son, to my story. I chose. And that choice, that power to define who I am, who my family is, what love actually means, that's everything. Julian texted. On my way down. 5 minutes. I smiled. Owen stirred, opened his eyes, looked at me. I looked back at my son. We were free. That first night home, as I rocked Owen in the quiet darkness of our nursery, the weight of everything finally settled. The fear that I might have lost him still lingered in my chest like a bruise, but so did a new kind of strength. I had fought for him when I could barely move. I had chosen myself and my family when everyone expected me to stay silent. PTSD would come in waves. Nightmares of footsteps in the hallway, the sound of a diaper bag dropping. But so would the joy of watching Julian feed our son at 3 a.m. while humming off key. One day, maybe, I would let my mother back in, slowly, with heavy boundaries and proof of real change. But right now, I was choosing peace. I was choosing us. And no one, not even the people who brought me into this world, could ever take that choice away again. Not because the villain lost, but because I won something better than revenge. I won myself back, and I won the right to write the next chapter. On my terms.